Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cliff Yates Show. We are live tonight, live here from Florida, the Florida studio. And tonight we're going to talk about New York City and President Trump's law and order legacy. If you want to, jump on board in the chat. Leave a comment. Let me make sure I got my comments up here. And if it's not too nasty or hateful, I'll put it on there. I'll answer your questions if you have any. I'm Cliff Yates, everybody. Retired sergeant from the LA Sheriff's Department, 30 years on the job. 35 years on the job in law enforcement. 5 years before that, I was in upstate New York, the Livingston County Sheriff's Department. I know I got some of my deputies out there. Maybe they're watching and or listening on one of the platforms that we are live tonight on a Friday night. Friday Night Lights. So I started my police career in upstate New York, 5 years, rural, out in the country, and then ended up in Los Angeles. I thought I was going to be in New York, and we're going to touch on that today. My New York City experience, my first trip to New York City, when it was kind of crazy bad. Believe me, much worse than it is today. We could argue that. And then my return after Giuliani turned things around. Mayor Giuliani. We're going to talk about the mayor tonight. We're going to talk about President Trump's law and order legacy. We're going to talk about his first term and what he's doing right now. And we're going to end with maybe some current news. No, we are going to end with some current deportation criminal news that's going on right now, right today. So I'm glad that we can get together tonight and share some current events and what's going on, and also the past and my experiences with New York City, with Mayor Giuliani. President Trump, when he first came on my radar and I started watching and or listening to him. My first trip to New York City, everybody, was in 1983. Now, remember, I was growing up, the 1970s when Mayor Giuliani, and is he incredible? He's an amazing man. He is New York's mayor. He's America's mayor because he was mayor during 9/11 and showed great leadership. And all these years later, he'll be on YouTube tonight. He'll be going live, talking about current events and what's going on with the Trump administration. He's on top of things. I know he's 80-something. Or maybe late 70s. I'm going to have to check that out, see what his age is. But when I was growing up, just graduating high school, heading off to Monroe Community College, criminal justice, and Mayor Giuliani, I looked up to him because he was actively prosecuting all the mafia in the New York City 5 crime families. We're talking Gambino, Genovese, Lucchese, Colombo, Bonanno. I know all those families because I studied the mafia. I don't know why. I was a little fascinated with them. We had a little bit of mafia connection up in Rochester, New York, and they would be in the headlines for struggles over territory, and there would be bombings and shootings. We had an A team, B team in Rochester, New York, and so I took a little interest in New York City mafia, reading books, and then law enforcement and the big agencies from Los Angeles to New York City, reading the Joseph Wambaugh books. This is the 1970s. Mayor Giuliani was really active as a district attorney in New York, and he was so well accomplished. So when I go down there, Giuliani had been a U.S. district attorney. As U.S. attorney, Giuliani became renowned for targeting the Italian-American mafia, particularly New York City's 5 families, right? I told you, Gambino, Genovese, Lucchese, Colombo, Bonanno. And one of his most significant cases was the Mafia Commission trial, which ran from February 25th, 1985 to November 19th, 1986. In this trial, he indicted 11 organized crime figures under the Racketeer Influenced and Corruption Organization Act. RICO, we're all familiar with RICO, including the heads of the 5 families, Anthony, Fat Tony, Salerno, the Genovese family, Anthony, Tony, Dux, Corallo, the Lucchese family, right? Carmen Jr., Persico, the Colombo family, and Big Paul Castellano, Gambino, though he was murdered before the trial concluded, and Philip Rusty Restelli, the Bonanno family. 8 of these defendants were convicted, with most receiving 100-year sentences on January 13th, 1987. He also he was part of the Pizza Connection trial, which began in 1985 and concluded in 1987. The case targeted a $1.6 billion heroin and cocaine trafficking ring operated by the Sicilian Mafia and Bonanno family members using pizza parlors as fronts. Giuliani's office indicted 22 individuals, including Gastano Badalamenti, former Sicilian Mafia chief, and Salvatore Catalano, the Bonanno member. 18 were convicted, with key figures receiving lengthy sentences. I'm telling you, long ago, Giuliani was fearless as a prosecutor, long before he became the mayor. Long before he became the mayor in 1994 to 2001. Yeah, he was mayor during 9/11, showed great leadership. But you see, in the 1980s, he was really prosecuting these mafia figures. So 1983 is when I first go to New York City, my first trip to New York City with my mom and my aunt to take the New York City police test. And I was already a cop in Livingston County as a deputy sheriff. But I had it in me that I wanted to be part of a big organization, so I was applying all over the country. And I got my notice to take the New York City police test on Lexington Avenue in Manhattan. Took my mom and aunt down there in 1983. Took the police test, and wow, New York City, Grand Central Station. It was chaotic. It was a nightmare down there. I loved it. Just there was homeless laying all over. You could tell that Times Square was just so crime-ridden with peep shows and muggers, and what they at the time they were the squeegee guys. I mean, they would run up to these cars, they would block you off in traffic, or while you were blocked in traffic, and they would offer to wash your window. And if you didn't say yes, or you protested, that squeegee would crack across that front windshield. And so the Mayor Giuliani came in 1994, and so when I came back to New York City again, right after taking that police test, when I came back in 96, wow, I'm looking at Grand Central Station. I mean, it is cleaned up. I mean, there's coffee shops. There's no homeless laying around. Times Square, there is no peep shows going on. I mean, Giuliani, amazing. I saw the before and the after. I was there when it was crazy, cruddy, chaotic, crime-ridden Manhattan. And I was just there for a few days taking my police test. Come back 96. Broadway's looking good. It's crowded. You feel safe. You're out till 2 in the morning. My wife and I were taking the subway anywhere, everywhere, any time of day. No fear. Okay, maybe it is worse right now. Considering everything that's going on, I guess you could say it's worse. So that was my first trip to New York City. Then I went back to New York City. And boy, what a difference it was. And my motivation, as I told you, to take that police test, because I wanted to go to the big agency just from reading books, watching TV, seeing all these cop movies. I just wanted to get into it. And finally ended up joining the LA Sheriff's Department in December of 1983. Yep, New York City. I just loved it. And I'm so happy that my wife loves New York City too. And we go back every year, still to this day. We go during Christmas time. So the changes were really good. Let's go. Let's switch to President Trump right now. And my first introduction to President Trump was really watching The Apprentice. 2004 was when I first watched The Apprentice, right around there, 2004. So we're talking, 12 years before, 12 years before President Trump comes down the escalator. I'm watching him on The Apprentice. Now, which I'm taking, in 2004, so I'm way into Gone to Tony Robbins, got my real estate license in California, and was really, saw Jim Rohn live, and I went to his training, so now I'm really into personal development, self-improvement, and so I'm really loving the show, The Celebrity Apprentice, because for me, it was a free business school, right? You had, the celebrities would come on, they would put them in teams, and there would be, each team would be given a task, and whoever made the most money, that money would go to that person's, the project manager's charity. And so someone would be picked as the project manager, which in one sense, they wanted to be the project manager because if they won, then their charity got all the money. In another sense, if they didn't do good, they're going to be brought back into the boardroom where they're going to have to answer to President Trump, who wasn't President Trump. He was the boss, at the time, and then he might be one of his kids, or he had a business consultant. I can't remember the guy's name. George, I think it was. Let me know in the chat if you remember the name of the sidekick there for President Trump on The Apprentice. And it was just, it was really great to watch these celebrities go on out into Manhattan with these tasks, these projects, and the project manager would have to task certain members of the team with doing certain things, and then they would usually be selling something or promoting some product. And at the end of their time period, they were under a time constraint. They would come back into the boardroom and report on their earnings. In the top two, something like the top two would be, they would have immunity and they were all safe. And then the bottom two would have to come in and plead their case as to why they weren't as successful. And then the worst team would have to explain themselves, and somebody would be fired. And somebody always was fired. But that's when then I started reading The Art of the Deal from Donald Trump, and started looking into him and saw some of the things he did in New York City, that the Central Park skating rink that they could never finish. The city couldn't get it done. Trump made a deal with him, probably part financial and part that his name would be put on that rink as it is today. And he got that thing done, I think, in 4 months when they had taken like 10 years and they couldn't finish this project. So I was really, wow, I just thought this guy is really, he gets things done. And as we saw in his first term, he gets things done. And, he was really, as he said in one of his debates, he was, as he told Hillary, listen, I was with you. I was on the Democrat side. I know how the game's played, right? Yeah, I take advantage of tax law to avoid paying too much tax. And I know how the game is played, Hillary, because I played it. He was with all these Democrats, Oprah and everybody else. They loved Trump until he came down the escalator and said he was going to be president. They said, wait a minute. You know too many secrets. You know how the job goes. You know how the swamp is. We don't want you telling people all of the secrets that we know that you know. So I took it as an online business school, this Apprentice. I mean, it had some great people on The Apprentice. Do you remember some of these people that were on the show? I mean, here's some of the people they had on the show. I had a list of people, right? Bret Michaels, he was really good. Of course, we all know Omarosa. I think she had a job in the White House in Trump's first term. Bill Goldberg. Boy George. Remember Gary Busey? He was crazy on The Apprentice. LaToya Jackson was really good. Some of these people I'm surprised at the business sense they had. LaToya Jackson. Lil Jon. Rapper, man, he was great. Oh, man, he was a good guy. Stephen Baldwin, he did good. Country singer Trace Adkins. Oh, man, I met Trace Adkins. So when I was a deputy sheriff in Los Angeles, and I had the terrible of assignment of working the Universal City Walk, and they would always, for many years while I was working there, they would have the Country Music Awards, the CMAs, at the Universal Amphitheater, right there at Universal City. And most of Universal City is in the county area, so we had a substation there, the Sheriff's Department, out of West Hollywood Station. And my cousin April was in town because I was actually doing a comedy show. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Yeah, LA's sheriff by day, comedian by night. So LA's comedy cop, I became known as, because Channel 9 did a whole expose on me, filming me on my City Walk job, and then filming me at the Comedy Store on the Sunset Strip. But I was doing a show at the Hollywood Palladium, and I had my cousin flew into town, my mom and dad. Oh, such great memories now that I'm thinking about it. The Hollywood Palladium, actually rented it out. I had some opening comedians, and I was headlining this show. And so my cousin April, who was there to see me, she was able to come up to Universal City Walk right after the CMA Awards, and she was able to meet someone she really loved, Trace Adkins, and get her picture taken with Trace Adkins. But man, he was really good on the Apprentice. He has a great business sense. He was really serious too. Annie Duke, she was that famous, pretty famous poker player. Brian McKnight, comedian Carol Leifer. Clint Black, country singer. Dee Snider. How about Dennis Rodman? Oh my God, he was crazy on The Apprentice. He was good. Donald Trump. Oh, 46 he was born, Donald Trump. So 11 years older than me. All right. Herschel Walker. He was great on The Apprentice. Joan Rivers was good. Holy shit, Joan Rivers. Lisa Rinna. Mary Lou Henner was good. Penn Jillette. Andrew Dice Clay. Surprising. A lot of these celebrities, they have a good business sense because they have to. A lot of the comedians especially, because you got to promote and market your own shows. You know, before... cruise ships came into being, and you can now make a good living on a cruise ship without having to promote and market the shows. The people are already there. They're on the ship. All you have to do is your job as a comedian, make people laugh. Let me know in the chat here if you have any history watching The Apprentice. I loved The Apprentice, man. I was going to tell you a famous, or one of my favorite episodes, but I really can't. So, I liked President Trump from the start, from The Apprentice, and reading his book. And so when he announced that he would be president, I liked it because I liked him, and I had a little history, right? 11 years of watching him on television and see him operate. And then when he became president, he supported law enforcement. He was standing up. We have to support law enforcement. We have to support firefighters. We have to support our first responders. And then to see the vehement attacks on him, it was kind of, heartbreaking. He said, my wife and I support Donald Trump. And then people are unfriending us, hateful remarks. This is a guy we just like. We watched him on The Apprentice. We like his policies as a president. We went to the inauguration in Washington, D.C., and that was an experience. It was crazy. Actually, it was pretty good. I was happy to see Washington. I went to Washington with on our senior trip from Caledonia Mumford Central School. I went to Washington, D.C. Oh, my goodness. I don't remember half of it. But we were crazy. A crazy high school class that was more focused on drinking than learning the history of our country and seeing all these great memorials around Washington. But we were able to sit in Congress and see some of these great memorials at the Washington and the Capitol and the White House, touring through the White House. But we got robbed on our hotel floor. They came with shotguns. You're right. I didn't get robbed. They didn't take... No, as a matter of fact, they took my class ring. That's all I had. I had nothing on me. I was in the hallway. And so we had to lay down on the floor. Everybody was robbed. And so that was my experience of Washington. Too much to drink, drunk, robbed, dirty city, crime-ridden. I come back for the inauguration, 2017, and wow, it's like there's some yuppieville going on. There's some really hip areas in Washington. Now, because of the inauguration, my wife and I couldn't see a lot because everything was closed down as far as tours. Some of the sites you couldn't see. We got to see the Lincoln Memorial, but a lot of that was blocked off for events occurring the day before the inauguration. But there was some, we went to a nice Cuban restaurant in downtown Washington, and the streets were clean. So much different, much more different than I remember in 1975 when I went for my senior trip. Now, 2017, wow. I guess with all the lobbyists and all the corrupt money, they repainted the city, and it looked clean. And now I think it's back to a crime-ridden cesspool. But 2017, it really looked good. And so I like the law and order. I like the law and order policies of President Trump, and we need them. I just couldn't believe how this defund the police, all this crap that was going on is just crazy. All right, let's talk about today and dive into some recent things that are going on. Let's talk about some policy moves that they're making. I'm actually going to do another episode, and it's going to be based on why they're not having a celebration, a return to Earth celebration with the stranded astronauts. We should be doing that, right? Trump, look at Elon Musk. They're trying to kill Elon Musk because he's volunteered his services. He's being the example of what John F. Kennedy said we should be doing. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He has partnered up with President Trump. He's not on a power trip. He wants to expose waste, fraud, and corruption. And as he said on the Joe Rogan show, and Joe Rogan was saying, what we need to do is get rid of these senators having immunity for, insider trading. And Elon Musk says, listen, beyond that, the corruption goes way beyond that. So bad that if I exposed everything I knew, they would kill me. I'm already concerned. I've already had too many threats on my life on a daily basis. Elon Musk, who should be celebrated. We got 2 astronauts stranded, supposed to be in space at the space station for 8 days. They're there for 280 plus. And the government ship that took them up there, it was unsafe to bring them back, so they were stranded there. And Biden didn't make much of an effort to go get them. And so President Trump's in, and Elon says, I got this. I offered my services before we can get up there. And they brought him back just the other day, the 18th. March 18th, splashdown. What an opportunity to have a celebration, an American celebration, to have a live stream maybe a month after splashdown. We have the astronauts live streaming if they're up to it physically with Elon Musk. Maybe he does a keynote. We are live streaming. We'll either hold it at the SpaceX headquarters in California, Hawthorne. Simultaneously, we will live stream it from Cape Canaveral, Kennedy Space Center, or maybe we'll flip it the other way around and offer the free Wi-Fi to all the participants, Starlink Wi-Fi, and we'll have a virtual reality ride of the Crew 10, the Space Falcon 9, and the SpaceX ship that rescued the astronauts. It could be a whole event. So I'm going to do a whole episode on that. I got the framework all set up. But instead, right, people are burning Teslas. They're committing these criminal vandalisms, and they're destroying properties. What is that about? This man is trying to expose waste, fraud, and corruption, and in fact, he's exposed some billions of dollars. He's on track to get his goal of saving wasted and corrupt $2 trillion, and he's already on his way. And more people are concerned of his access to these public agencies than they are to the corruption that he's exposing. Widespread corruption. God bless you, Elon, and there should be a celebration of you and what you're doing for the country, and you can be an example of what we should be doing, asking what we can do to serve our country. Well, this was crazy good that I got together with you on this stuff. All right, let's go with something's happening today, which I cannot, it all stems from the president's State of the Union address there, when it's just not even understandable. You have a wife of a police officer who was murdered. We have the girl that was murdered in Georgia, the nursing student. Lake and Riley's sisters there. Her mother's there. And we have a journalist who was kept captive before President Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania. He saw this journalist's mother, and he says, I won't forget you. When I'm president, I will make sure I get him out of prison. And here he was shot, almost killed. They were going to shoot him again on the golf course. And now we're doing State of the Union, and now that journalist is out of prison. He got him out, and there he is with his mother. And then we got little DJ, who's got 13 operations for brain cancer. And he just wants to be a police officer so bad. So he's honorary police officer in so many agencies, and they had him sworn in as part of the Secret Service. And do you think anybody on the left, one person on the left stood up to applaud? Everybody else stood there. No, they sat there. No applause, no clapping, no standing. I mean, what an embarrassment. Those people are sick to do that. How can you have decent respect? So it really, it goes to that they're just doubling down on the lunacy. And it breaks my heart to say, these people on the left are nuts, because I know people. I was just breaking bread the other day with these people that I know. They hate Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome. They got TDS bad. I saw some of their hateful comments online, and yet I interact with them once in a while personally in the community, and they're so friendly, and I'm friendly to them. I show them joy, and when we converse, it's good conversation about life, working out, exercise, summer places, traveling, but yet I know they are hard left, and I have to love them and forgive them, because if you listen to the propaganda on the CNN, MSNBCs, you would say, what? This is not the country that I know. I was listening at one time, and I thought, I can't even, you have to listen to the other side once in a while to know what perspective they're coming from and what they're putting out there, and some of it's so crazy. But I don't know how you can support some of this stuff, this Tren de Aragua. These gangs are murderous. You get murderous, raping gang members who just have destroyed families, and Trump is deporting them, getting them out of our country, and people are fighting. Judges are ruling, trying to keep these crazy criminal bastards in our country. And how anybody can support that, I have no idea, but they do, and they publicly do, and I guess they're just lunatics. Let's go to an article in the Federalist today. I like the Federalist. They have some good stories. This is a good article in the Federalist, but it's kind of nuts. Leftist lawfare aims to keep illegally present murderers and child rapists roaming U.S. streets. Yeah, that's something you should support. Is that crazy? No, and that's true. That's true. Let's see what the article says here. It is a tale old as time. A criminal identified for arrest and prison does everything possible to avoid contact with authorities. In recent years, many wanted criminals have fled their home country. Where are they en route to? Destination? The U.S. of A., the United States. On former President Joe Biden's watch, that's when they all rushed in here. Fugitives from justice illegally entered and found sanctuary in the U.S., where many continued their criminal ways. They are unworthy of our hospitality, yet leftist activists are in court trying to protect literal murderers and rapists from being deported. Do you want to be on that side of the issue? When the Department of Homeland Security last week deported 238 illegal aliens and alleged members of the Tren de Aragua, a designated foreign terrorist organization, from the U.S. to a prison in El Salvador, the anti-American ACLU and the far-left lawfare firm Democracy Forward went to court to stop the deportation. Activist Judge James Boasberg of the U.S. District Court of Washington, D.C., ordered the Trump administration not to remove any violent illegal aliens for 14 days. I'm ordering you, do not take violent criminal gangs out of this country. We want them here on our streets. The airplanes carrying them were already on their way. So sorry, Judge, but they're already gone. While court actions are ongoing, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, continues to remove wanted criminals still in the U.S. every day. Are they doing a great job or what? Like Miguel Antonio Verdugo Garcia, 49, who is wanted in Mexico for homicide. Sporting a white cable-knit cardigan sweater adorned with Scotty dogs, Verdugo Garcia was removed from Arizona by ICE officials on March 13th. He had been arrested for assault by the Glendale Police Department, and the Avondale Police Department arrested him for false report to law enforcement before he was deported. He had previously been removed from the U.S. 3 times in 2019, according to ICE. As the Biden administration flights full of illegal aliens scattered them off unannounced all over the U.S., the mantra of the right became every state is a border state. Evidence of that truth is in the arrests ICE is now making of violent criminals in nearly every state. Julio Cesar Hano, 38, is a citizen of Colombia, but he is wanted in Panama for the September 2020 aggravated rape of a child ICE arrested him outside his home in State College, Pennsylvania on March 14. Cesar Henao was picked up by U.S. Border Patrol near Eagle Pass, Texas, for entering the United States without permission by an immigration official on May 26, 2022. According to ICE, the next day he was enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program and released into the U.S. Come on, the Biden and his administration, they're guilty of treason. They should be arrested for such and imprisoned. They were released into the U.S., eventually making his way to Pennsylvania. He lived freely for several years. Normally, sex offenders must register on Pennsylvania's Megan's Law website so neighbors can be informed of their presence. Cesar Henao did not put himself on Megan's list, really. Neither did another sex offender arrested by ICE, Cincinnati, Ohio. Roshan Tamang of Bhutan was arrested March 11th for being in the U.S. illegally. According to ICE, Tamang has been convicted of gross sexual imposition, interfering with an arresting officer, possession of drug paraphernalia, criminal mischief, and criminal trespass. ICE officials in Minnesota don't know when Alexander Cruz Rodriguez, 29, entered the U.S., but they found he was presently illegally and wanted in El Salvador for rape of a minor. He was sent back to El Salvador February. ICE has removed Manuel Tellez from Dallas, Texas, but not before he killed a man on April 3rd, 2022, under the Biden administration. Tellez, 48, is a citizen of Mexico, and according to ICE, he stabbed a man 7 times, killing him, then went to get gasoline and used it to burn the victim's body. Tellez was initially charged with homicide but pled guilty to the lesser offense of manslaughter. He received no prison time for this conviction and was placed back into the community with community supervision for 8 years. According to a March 11th ICE statement, ICE and federal law enforcement partners from the FBI and CBP assisted in the arrest of Tellez after locating him within the community. Tellez remains in ICE custody pending immigration removal proceedings. Let's get him out of here. Let's get all these guys out of here right now. That's what's going on. Trump is doing the job. Elon's doing the job. We got Kash Patel at the helm of the FBI. We got Pam Bondi, Attorney General. We got Dan Bongino, Assistant Director to the FBI. And we got a lot of people. Tulsi Gabbard's in place, RFK Jr. Look at this administration. It's unbelievable. I'm leaving some people out that I'm thinking. I see their faces, but their names escape me. But hey, they're on the job, and we should be joyful about that. Be thankful for that they're on the job. And that's going to end this live broadcast, everybody. Please leave me a comment. And if you haven't already, subscribe, like, share. Share it. I'm not going to charge you a penny for this. No way. You know I love you. Share this with somebody who needs to hear it, right? Stay on the watch. Keep aware of your surroundings. Stay alive, number one. Be a joy to your friends, family, and associates. I'll see you next time.